Hey everyone, Aaron Spears here, Young Adult Librarian at the Westlake Porter Public Library. Welcome to session 2 of our Fall Teen Writers Workshop. This one's all based around getting prepped for National Novel Writing Month, also known as NaNoWriMo. That is in November, and so starting on November 1st, bam, first day of November hits, and we write a novel as best we can in just 1 month, in the month of November. The idea is to get that first draft out, like, oh, I got this story idea. This is the time to focus collectively. NaNoWriMo.org is their website. There's a lot of great features built in there as well. So that's the focus of our Fall Writers Workshop here. We do 4 sessions through September and October. If you're watching this one, this is session number 2. There's session number 1 also on our YouTube page, which is where you're watching this at. So if you want to go find that one is all about sparking an idea, getting the idea out and kind of mapping out some ideas, seeing what maybe some scenes you want here and there, but really just exploring that idea you have for a novel and fleshing it out as best you can. So in this one, we're going to be taking a look at creating characters specifically for that one. It's great to just open up your computer or grab your pen and paper and start writing on November 1st. And I've done that before because you have an idea and you're like, oh, I'm gonna put that off till November 1st. It's really better when you have a little bit of prep going into that. So the 4 sessions that we're going to have here to get prepped are going to go through 4 different areas of a novel to kind of get some prep going. Also get you kind of excited for it. That's the way I've noticed the last 3 or 4 years when I've done prep ahead of time, is you really can't wait to get into the actual writing part of it. And you cheat on occasion, you get a little bit of writing done ahead of time sometimes. But that way when you hit the ground running in November, you can get through like the first 5 or 6 days. You may get through the first 5 or 6 days with just had an idea and no prep, but it can kind of peter out, I guess, as you get going. If you don't have the prep, when you have the prep ready to go and you're like, man, I'm really just out of ideas right now. And then you're like, oh, right, that thing. Okay, yeah, you're back, you're energized, you're ready to go. So that's what the prep is doing here. So let's jump in. We have a bunch of built-in writing prompts here with timers. So the idea is you just click play on this video, you let it go, and it's an on-demand program just like you were at the actual live one. If you do want to join us live, it's every other week in September and October. Head over to westlakelibrary.org/events. And you can sign up. They're on Zoom, so they're just a click away if you want to join us live. If not, you found this on YouTube, you'll find the other 2 after this on YouTube. There'll be 4 in total. Get you all prepped and ready to go for NaNoWriMo in November. Let's jump in. We got some creating characters to do today. So before we jump into, as we jump into characters, we need to look at flat versus complex characters. This is sometimes in creative writing circles looked at as like, oh, this is a bad character. This is actually how you do it. I don't really look at flat versus complex characters as an either or, although I did put verses in there. I think all characters start off as flat characters, and then you build them into complex characters. Let's take a look at this example to see what I mean here. So you've got the first sentence of a flat character. Luna is a teenage girl who lives in Philadelphia. That's perfectly fine. That's a basic description when you're starting out and you're creating a character. Let's look at the first paragraph, though, of the complex characters section. 15-year-old Luna just moved from her childhood home in California to Philadelphia. Well, that's a little bit more complex than just she lives in Philadelphia. Now we know that she left her childhood home and is now like a new student, a new 15-year-old in a place she's never been before. That's different than if she, was like presumably maybe from Philadelphia, the way that the first line in the flat character mentions. So back to the flat character description. She goes to school, hangs out with her best friend, and likes clothes. Again, simple enough, but not necessarily very engaging if from the reader's point of view. But then when we go down to the complex section, she's having a hard time making friends at school, her strange name, and the beat-up, rainbow-colored van her dad drives her to school in every morning has not made it easier on her. She's only made one friend, Ollie, who lives down the block, has a pet snake also named Ollie. Everyone thinks Luna's too weird, and they're jealous of her shoes. We find out that she has every kind of shoe, sandals, skate shoes, high heel wedges, boots, bright white sneakers. Little do her classmates know she makes them all herself. So this fleshes it out a lot more than just she goes to school, she hangs out with a best friend, and she likes clothes. It also hints at like a larger thing that we may be exploring within this story, like if her dad is driving a rainbow-colored van to drop off at school every day, that doesn't sound like her dad works at like some stock brokerage firm on Wall Street. A rainbow-colored van speaks to like, oh, that's an interesting character her dad might be. This might come up in the story. It also engages the reader because it hints at a lot more things. Like we hear that, her best friend is Ollie, who lives on the block and has a pet snake. So they may not just be friends who hang out at school. They seem like they presumably met and possibly hang out in the neighborhood. So you can already get a little hint of other scenes that are going to be coming along here within the course of this story. So that's what I mean. It's really flat characters that evolve into complex characters through a lot of the prompts and the writing exercises we're going to be doing today. So if you have basically in your mind like a Luna as a teenage girl who lives in Philadelphia level description of a character, we're going to flesh that out and you're going to have pages by the time we're done with all of the writing prompts today. So before we jump into the writing prompts, we're going to be focusing on 3 types of characters today. We're going to be focusing on the protagonist, the supporting character, shouldn't have been plural there, I guess, supporting characters, but I mean, really we're going to try to focus on just supporting a supporting character, and then also the antagonist. Real quickly, you've all probably, read books before, obviously. You've probably even written stories before, but protagonist is the main character. It's the character that is the starring role in your book. A lot of times, most novels, in fact, actually are going to have a character, a protagonist going on a journey, something that they want more than anything else in the world. It could be fame. It could be grandiose things like, in Lord of the Rings, like trying to destroy the ring so that it can bring peace to Middle Earth, that sort of thing. Or, maybe they just want to like join the school play or soccer team, or they're trying to overcome some sort of injustice, that sort of thing. Supporting characters are characters who have an important role to play in your protagonist's life. They may be around for the entire journey. They may be totally partners on the journey. They may be only around for a little part of it. It could be a friend. It could be a family member. It could be both. It could be a twin. It could be a love interest. It could be a wizard. It could be a talking dog. It's whatever you want to put into that story that you're working on. But keep in mind, and we're going to explore this in some of the prompts, even a supporting character or a side character, they also have dreams of their own, and their adventures will be even adding even more excitement to your novel. Antagonists are the character that stands in the way of your protagonist getting what they want. This doesn't necessarily mean that they're an evil monster like He Who Shall Not Be Named in Harry Potter, but they could be. It could be just something like jealousy or confused. It could start off as a best friend relationship, like the example I have here. Nina tries out for their role in the school play, but Maddie gets it instead. Doesn't mean Maddie's pure evil or bad. It's just they wanted the same thing. So Maddie and Nina in this story could start off as best friends, but because of that whole school play thing, they become, now Maddie becomes the antagonist. So now you do have a quote-unquote villain for your story. Or, the example here, Count Dracula, the vampire, just plain evil. He Who Shall Not Be Named in Harry Potter. Pretty much just straight up evil, right? So you can have either or there. It doesn't have to be quite as dramatic. It depends on the story you're telling, too. Like if you're doing a realistic fiction that's set right here in like Westlake, Ohio, present day, that would not include a dragon, or a vampire. But if you're doing a, fantasy novel set in like 1950s Westlake and there are vampires or dragons are real, you're going to have a very different antagonist than if it's like a contemporary fiction story. I do want to point out one other thing too, though. There are these things called abstract antagonists. So, what if my protagonist crashes on an island and is just trying to survive? Who's the antagonist then? You're alone on an island. At the age you all are at, you may have read Hatchet, Gary Paulson's survival book. There's no evil wizard or someone pulling the strings as an evil villain in that one. It's human versus nature. Nature, in that case, survival, is the antagonist. That's an abstract protagonist. It's something that doesn't have a physical like body or thing to it. There's a physical antagonist. This is the abstract antagonist. In that case, it'd be nature. There's all the kinds of examples there too. You've got illness, grief, corrupt government, racism, anything that's going to make it hard for the protagonist, but it doesn't have a physical form so that your protagonist can't just, kick him in the knee and make him go away or cast a spell or whatever. That's what we mean by abstract. It's worth, I think, looking at these kind of next to each other because you can do an either or. You can have a physical antagonist or you could have an abstract antagonist. But there's also times when maybe it's worth putting these two together. So in the physical antagonist column, you have like a racist or intolerant character. That's a great antagonist because that's a very colorful villain to write as a story. But maybe you want to kind of do a combo or a hybrid. You want to have that racist or intolerant character maybe eventually is revealed to your protagonist at like the halfway point or something like that. But up until then, your protagonist has come up against the abstract antagonist. Maybe they've been the victim of a racist or intolerant system or community in general. And then they meet through that encounter with the abstract protagonist. They meet like the racist, sheriff or judge or lawyer or whatever.
that sort of thing. So these aren't mutually exclusive. It doesn't have to be an either or situation. An abstract antagonist can really enhance maybe when you see that there's a racist justice system in your story. Maybe that is enhanced by having a few characters from that one. In the Hunger Games, for instance, you've got the folks that are in charge, like the power structure in the Capitol. So you do have this power structure that's in charge. That's a more abstract idea. But then you also have the folks that are actually evil, that are in charge, that have positions of power within that corrupt fascist system they have there. Maze Runner series is a really good example of this, where in the first Maze Runner book, you've got kind of an abstract protagonist. You have the physical bad guys, like the monsters in the maze, but you don't really know what this abstract system is that has placed them in the maze. That's part of the hook of that first one, is like, what is going on here? This is crazy. This is a wild system. So there's a few examples on the chart here that you can have that. So on the left side, you've got, here's the physical version of it, and on the right side, you have the abstract version of it. I'm a big fan of kind of doing a hybrid or a combo between the two, because I think it gives you more to write about, and it also reinforces what the challenge that your protagonist is really up against, when there's like a whole abstract system behind your physical antagonist or villain characters. So that brings us to prompt number 1. In our first session, if you weren't there, the Sparking an Idea session, we talked about picking out a model novel to not only look to for inspiration and structure and instruction as well, like how to write your novel, but also something to read while you're going through the month of November and writing your novel. That way it's like your buddy book. It's the one that you're kind of going to for inspiration and you're rereading, so it's a favorite. If you did do that, I would say use one of your characters from that novel. A main character could be an antagonist, could be a protagonist. It's up to you. Or if you weren't part of that session, if you weren't part of session 1, no problem. Pick your favorite novel. Maybe it's a film, maybe it's a TV show, and go to a favorite character. A character, the first thing that comes to mind when you think of favorite characters, maybe use that one there. And we want to take a couple minutes here to answer, what was your favorite thing about that main character? What made the character feel real to you? And what made that character connect with you to the point where it's a favorite? All right, so everything you wrote down about your favorite character, keep that handy. That's like one of those post-it notes or a piece of paper or a document to have open on your computer that you can go to, because whatever it was that you responded to in that character, we want to try to imbue that into the characters you're going to be creating today. So now it's your turn. We talked about like a favorite one. You have a model character, protagonist, antagonist, supporting character, doesn't matter. So you have that model there, but now it's your turn. We put together a few prompts, actually several prompts, to start fleshing out characters. So keep in mind the aspects that you liked about your favorite protagonist and or antagonist, and we're going to go through protagonist, supporting character, and two types of antagonists to see if we can kind of flesh that out. But the first thing we want to do is we need to get some names going. You don't want to just be like my protagonist, my antagonist. Like we want to get rid of those terms and give them some actual names. Names can really open up a character for you, but you can also get lost in the process of picking a name too. I always like to set a timer when I'm poking around on character name databases, or in this case, I would say like babynames.com is a great one because you can break things down by country, origin, time period. If you're a big Rick Riordan fan and you're trying to do like a modern day Greek mythology tale the way he does, you can head on over to like country of origin names, Greece. Get some Greek names. I like to pick out one or two for my protagonist, my antagonist, and supporting characters, just so I have a couple of options there in my notebook. I also tend to use unisex names, like my name is Aaron. Aaron can be a guy name or a girl name. I think those are handy because I'm not always sure what gender my characters are going to be when I'm in this stage of it. So I think that lets my brain know, like, oh, that can go either way. We don't have to pick that right now. But it's a lot of good name databases out there. We'll set a timer for just a couple minutes here. So go grab a few names that you can just have, and they don't have to be set in stone, but they can just be for the sake of this writing exercise. All right, now that we have a few character names in hand, it's time for some questions. We're going to do 3 rounds of prompts to help us dive deeper into the protagonist, the supporting character, and the antagonist, hopefully with names now on your notebook or your computer screen or your document file that you're typing. So we're going to explore each one individually. Let's concentrate on just one at a time to flesh out their personality and their history. Ideally, if you're heading into this type of project, you've got a kind of an idea of what the characters you're working with are going to be. So work with those and let's really flesh these out. I grabbed these from different online personality quizzes, character generators, things like that. They can be a really great way. If you're stuck with a character, pretend to be your character and go take an online like personality quiz. It can really help you flesh out a lot of details. So let's start off with the protagonist. There's the easy stuff like name, age, race, eye color, hair color, but we also want to get into physical appearance, skills. If you want to start sketching out maybe a picture, if you're a visual learner like that, if you want to do some doodles to kind of like, okay, I think this is what they're going to look like. That is perfectly great. That is the time to do it. We're going to give a few minutes on this one because there's a lot of things on here you can dive into. If one of the things doesn't pique your interest, just go on to the next one and see how much of your character you can sketch out here in a few minutes. All right, and now it is on to same idea, but this time it's going to be for the supporting characters. All right, and the third one here, this is going to be the antagonist. So last round here, this is with the antagonist. Now, you may not be thinking about it for your particular story, but we do have that idea of the abstract antagonist in here. So let's take a couple minutes here to kind of, even if it's not part of your story that you think of just yet, maybe as an offshoot of whatever you've got for your antagonist so far, see if any of this abstract antagonist idea applies. Maybe we can kind of incorporate it into your story as we were talking about with like the Hunger Games example. You have this antagonist that's powerful enough to be in the way or possibly stopping your protagonist, but maybe put a system behind them that like reinforces like what their ideals are, what their motivations are, that sort of thing. So is it a disease like cancer or a social ill like poverty, something larger than life like grief? How does the antagonist how does this type of an antagonist affect the protagonist, and does it reinforce the physical antagonist, or do other characters even notice? How does this antagonist affect any of the other characters you've got? All right, now you've got three, should be, solid, maybe a page or so of lists of items, different things that you've explored within your three different characters. Let's see how those characters interact now, those different personalities that you were sketching out. The protagonist, by definition, is going to be the best known character in your story. They are the lead, after all. So let's explore the other characters and their relationship to the protagonist. So up first, the supporting character. A couple minutes here to think this through. How do they know the protagonist? What do they love about the protagonist? Do they disagree with the protagonist about anything? Similarities, differences. Sometimes if it's like a best friend character, they're best friends because they're very different. They're polar opposites. Sometimes you're best friends because you guys click over everything. So let's explore the relationship of the supporting character to the protagonist. Now, same thing. I mean, same idea, but different questions. The antagonist. What is the antagonist relationship to your protagonist? Why are they getting in the way of your protagonist? How do they feel about the protagonist and why? Do they have any likable qualities at all? Or are they just plain evil? Do they have like a secret weakness? The secret weakness is really that could end up being a scene or a key to your climax where your hero, your protagonist, potentially overcomes the antagonist because they discover what that secret weakness is, if that's even there. Problem number 5. This is kind of just some additional questions that I didn't find a way to fit them into the other previous questionnaires we did. So if you have in front of you those 3 different characters you've been working on that you've been fleshing out, see if any of these apply to that. Favorite clothing style or outfit. Ooh, you know what? Maybe I have this really great idea for the antagonist. You know how they present themselves. Special gestures or movement. Maybe your supporting character cracks their knuckles all the time when they're nervous or don't even think about it. Speaking style. Maybe your protagonist is a silent type, but the supporting character or their best friend is like always really talkative and fills in all the silence by talking and narrating everything that goes on. So a couple minutes here, kind of go through these and see which ones they apply to. You can go through each one individually, each of your characters individually, or maybe some of these, this character really cares about blank. That really applies to your protagonist. All right, prompt number 6, this or that. This is a bit more rapid fire personality questions. They're not really personality questions, that may be the wrong label. They're more like social or ethical situations, and we're going to see how your character reacts to them. But you're going to be your character in this case. So pick one of the characters, whichever one is fascinating you the most at the moment, your protagonist, your supporting character, or your antagonist, and stick with that one character for now, and we're going to go through these it's like 6 or 7 I've got here questionnaires. So it's a this or that situation. So you got your character in mind. Here we go. Heading out for an activity. Does your character go alone, or do they wait and go in a group? All right, going on a vacation. The character you're picturing right now, are they more of I'm going to a hotel for vacation, or I'm going camping for a vacation? So like, are they going to be more around civilization, or do they want to go out into nature? All right, at a party. Is your character that you're thinking about right now, are they the one telling a story, meaning they want the attention on themselves, or are they the ones that would rather just listen to their friend tell a great story or a great anecdote, just listening to it? For someone's birthday, is your character the one that's going to make a gift for the birthday, or are they going to be buying a gift for the birthday? Your character you're thinking of, they get in trouble, like legit trouble. They are in trouble. Are they going to try to escape through reason and logic, maybe some manipulation, or are they going to go right for like tears and emotion? Escaping through music. Everybody, you're gonna have a bad day every once in a while, and you want to just like throw on some music. Music is such a great like mood enhancer or manipulator. So if you're escaping through music as your character, are you going to be listening to music, or are you going to be picking up an instrument and playing some music? Your character has to explain an idea or a concept to someone. Are they going to make a list of bullet points? Here's the whole idea. Here's how you map it out, or collage. So this idea is like, are you going to be more of a visual explainer, or like a list explainer, a very logical presentation? Find an envelope of money. This is an ethical, moral quandary for your character. Are they just going to keep it, or are they going to do their best to try to find the owner? Your character is writing something. Are they going to go for writing poetry, or like NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month, are they going to write a story, a narrative story, a novel? I think this one is very much tied to the music one. If your character is more apt to pick up an instrument or sit in an instrument like a piano and play something rather than put music on the stereo, I think they may be more apt to go towards poetry, just from like song lyric wise. So it depends on what mentality your character has. Maybe writing poetry is like a secret character trait that your supporting character has to help them process what they're doing on this crazy adventure with the protagonist. So the last one we have here is lists, 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 lists. Lists are great for exploring characters. You can find a lot of like character brainstorming lists online. I highly recommend those. I grabbed a few here that I think are pretty fun ones. It doesn't matter if you're writing science fiction story that takes place on a planet you just made up 1,000 years from now. These sort of things can give you a lot of interesting character insights to what is going on in the world of your character, even if you don't use it. It helps you understand the character a lot more. Hidden items in your character's room, things in the fridge, what do they daydream about, things in their closet. Think about your favorite stories, your favorite novels. You may never know what's in that protagonist's closet, but as the author of the story, that may be interesting to kind of keep in mind that that's where they have something stashed away that's secret. Maybe that will end up coming up in the third act when you're getting close to your climax. Maybe it will never ever come up into your novel at all. But these all help you get to know your character so much better, so much more thoroughly, and you're going to be able to answer questions as they come up in your plot because you know these characters at this point.
All right, that's it. That's what we got for creating characters. I hope something really stuck with you. You really like cracked open your character for you, getting interested in your characters. You can use any of those prompts as well, or like I mentioned several times, I love those personality quizzes you can find online. Really can kind of help you get into the mindset of your character. Helps you role play a lot too within your character and explore them as well. You're going to need more than those three characters, presumably, for your novel. So feel free to either rewatch the video, go back to see some of those prompts, or use the Google Doc that's linked below the video here, and explore all of your characters all as in-depthly. The more notes, the more sticky notes, the more little note cards. I'm a big fan of having note cards for each character. The more character ideas, the more in-depth you've really explored those characters. That's a well you can go to during November when you're working on your novel to jump in and be like, okay, well that's going to be a scene right there. Okay, I'm going to write that as a scene, but I may just adapt that in the long run. That's fine. It's all about getting that first draft out. It's not going to be great. Hopefully it's good at least, but it's the first draft. It's exploring the ideas in the novel form. So we'll see you next time. If you want to go ahead and sign up for the in-person or like live on Zoom version on October 6th, we're going to be going over plots and structure. If not, head right back here to where you found this one, and we'll have that one up within a day or two usually of the live on Zoom one. Until then, keep writing and exploring.